I'm in Dartmouth today, which is one of, if not my favourite town on the planet ever. And I think it is one of the most interesting towns or settlements of any kind on the planet. Not only that, but I also think it is the most influential town on the planet, which is quite a bold claim, hugely bold claim, but I have evidence to back it up. And that's what this video is about. So, if you want me to justify that claim, which I will, watch the rest of the video, because it's incredibly interesting. Behind me, right here, is a very unique train station. It was built in 1864 by the Dartmouth and Torbay Railway, who had built their railway line from Torbay down to here in the same year. They had massive issues with building a railway across the River Dart, so they had to build their terminus at the other side of the river in Kingswear, which is where you can see the houses and the hill behind me as well. And what you may be thinking is, they built their terminus in Kingswear, but you're in Dartmouth. Why is there a station here? It's because they wanted to say that they had a station in Dartmouth, even though they didn't. And that's the unique thing about this train station, is it never once saw a train. It never once had any tracks, but it was in every official standard and every official definition and usage. This was a train station, even though it never had a single track and it never had a single train, which is incredibly unique. I think this is the only one that I know of in the world, which is one of the reasons that I think Dartmouth is the most interesting town on the planet. I hope you can hear me well from over there. I'm trying to speak quite loud so that you can. I'm here on my own at the moment. I'm in Bayard's Cove Fort down here on the riverside in Dartmouth. It's quite a very interesting place in my opinion. It's an English heritage site, but it's free to enter. The opening times at the entrance say any reasonable time during daylight hours, and I think 10:49 in the morning is an incredibly reasonable time to visit a fort like this. I say this is a very interesting place for multiple reasons, because of a lot of the visitors that they had here. Just over to the right of me here, the Mayflower and the Speedwell parked. What's the word parked for a ship? I've forgotten. Here to receive repairs before they went on to Plymouth and eventually onto the New World, where where the Pilgrims were going to escape persecution here. They docked here for about 10 days to receive repairs from the skilled craftsmen of Dartmouth, which at the time already had a long naval history and a very big shipbuilding industry here. As well as that, in 1588, Sir Francis Drake brought a captured Spanish vessel here, Spanish galleon, that he captured whilst he was defeating the Spanish Armada in 1588. I did look at the name of this ship and I did write it down, but I don't speak Spanish and it's quite a long name, so I'm not going to try to pronounce it, but I will put it at the bottom of the video right here. And that was captured by the famous privateer Sir Francis Drake in 1588. And then 4 years later, Sir Walter Raleigh did the exact same thing. He captured a Portuguese ship that was on a return voyage from the East Indies back to Portugal. He captured this in the Azores and he brought it back here to this fort to bring the spoils of his capture back to England and back to the crown. And this ship was called, I will pronounce this one, the Madre de Dios. I think that's how you pronounce it, I could be wrong. He brought it back here when he captured it to bring all the treasure back to England. And all this treasure was worth, on its own, about half of the entire annual income of the British Crown from this one ship that they captured, which is incredible. And they brought it back right here to Dartmouth, which is just another reason that Dartmouth is an incredibly interesting town, and it demonstrates how important its naval history was to the entire world. Behind me, right here, is a blue plaque. It's not something I expected to talk about because I didn't find out my research. But this was the home of a man called Sir Humphrey Gilbert, who in the 1500s, the mid-1500s, founded Britain's colonial empire. The ferry's going off, you can probably hear it. He lived on this building, he served under Queen Elizabeth I. A lot of the time he spent in France, because we had land in what's now France at the time. And he's the man that colonised Newfoundland, which was the first successful colony the English had. And he lived here, he started the British colonial empire, and we can debate until the cows come home about whether that was a good thing or not. But what's undeniable is an incredibly important thing that happened. And the man lived here. This impacted literally the entire planet. We were the most powerful country in the world for hundreds of years because of a man that lived in this house right behind me. Which I think is incredible, incredibly interesting, and yet another reason that I think Dartmouth is the most influential town on the planet. I also just think it's an incredibly beautiful town. Definitely the most beautiful town in Devon, almost definitely the most beautiful town in England, and probably the most beautiful town in the UK. Maybe even, if you want to go far enough, the most beautiful town on the planet. But I think there's some like towns in Italy, the south of France, that might have something to say about that. But I like it saying it's Dartmouth because it's local, and I like it a lot. I'm down here near Warfleet Creek, the mouth of which is right down here behind me. And I was at this site, through the Warfleet Valley, where Royalist forces attacked Dartmouth during the English Civil War. Dartmouth had sworn its allegiance to Parliament to the parliamentarians during the English Civil War. And when the Royalists came to capture the town, they did it through the valley of the Warfleet Creek, which enters the River Dart here. And as they got into town Dartmouth, they captured a fort called Paradise Fort, which doesn't exist anymore. But it was this house behind me, stands on the site of where this fort used to be. And it was here where Royalist forces came into Dartmouth during the English Civil War to capture the town. Right here. There's a cannon on top of this container. That's kind of cool and kind of odd. I like that. But behind me, this massive building on the hill is the Britannia Royal Naval College. And it's on that site since 1863, where a lot of Britain's naval officers for the Royal Navy have been trained. In 1903 was when the buildings we can see today were built, and throughout the entire 20th century was where the majority of Britain's naval officers were trained, until in 1998 it became the sole site of training for British Royal Navy officers, which means every currently serving British Royal Navy officer was trained in that building right there. And the interesting thing for me is, because of how important this building was to the British Royal Navy, during the Cold War, Dartmouth became one of the targets of the Soviet Union's nuclear weapons. It's an alternate universe where, if the Cold War turned hot, Dartmouth, this small town in South Devon of 5,000 people, would have been hit with a nuclear weapon. I'm here just above Dartmouth Castle, a bit of which you can see behind me here. This was a fortification that was built in 1388 to help defend against the French during the 100 Years' War, which was the event that prompted the building of this fort. Dartmouth was a very important target for the French during the 100 Years' War, being such an important naval town even by that point in the 1300s. It was quite an important place to attack, to damage our capability to retaliate and attack back to France, and to carry out the war even. It was an incredibly important place for everyone. There's a steam, hold on. Oh, that'd be so cool to be able to go on. as I was saying before I was interrupted by this magnificent piece of engineering behind me, this fort was built to help defend from the French during the 100 Years' War. And in 1404, historians believe that it carried out this role when it discouraged the French attack, which was supposed to land in Dartmouth in 1404. Instead of the attack, because of this fort, they believe, the plans were changed and the attack instead landed at Slapton, a bit further down the coast. Another incredibly beautiful place, by the way. If you're in the area, I recommend visiting it. Instead of landing here, it landed down there and was very quickly defeated. And as with Warfleet Creek and Bayard Cove Fort that I was at earlier, this saw action during the English Civil War. Being, again, Dartmouth was a parliamentarian town at the start of it before it was captured by the Royalists. It was again recommissioned during World War II when a gun battery was put in place here to help defend against any potential German invasion from the north coast of France. A lot of training for D-Day was also based here at the Royal Naval College, because the beach at Slapton that I mentioned earlier, the French invasion, was remarkably similar to the beaches in the north of France. So a lot of D-Day training took place around Dartmouth, around the south of Devon, around Torcross. Plan to make a video there one day if I can get there. And a lot of that naval history, a lot of war history started here. Again, Sir Francis Drake, Sir Walter Raleigh brought captured vessels in through this channel behind me. Now, I said at the start of this video that I believe Dartmouth was the most influential town in the world, ever in the world, even more than New York or London or Paris. I believe Dartmouth is more important than all of them combined. And that's because of the event that happened right behind me. There's a plaque on this wall here. And what this plaque says is, this is the site of the house where Thomas Newcomen lived when he invented his famous engine, which was the Newcomen steam engine, invented in 1712, first installed in a coal mine in Dudley to pump water out of the mine to allow more mining to continue. And this was the first steam engine ever to be able to produce enough power for it to be useful for something. Steam engines had existed for thousands of years before the Romans had steam engines. But before this point, all of the steam engines were novelties. They were things to show off with to your friends. So novelties for rich people to show off to other rich people with. But this site here was the first time that someone thought, we should use this for something. And thus was born the steam engine. And because of this event, it enabled the Industrial Revolution. It enabled the invention of trains, of eventually phones and the internet, and the entirety of a modern world. And all of this started right on exactly this spot where I'm stood now. And this is one of the things that I love so much about history and things like that, is it happened in our world. Like, you can stand on such an influential place like this. Although it's nothing like what Thomas Newcomen would know. His house has been demolished in 1864 to build this road behind me, Newcomen Road. You can stand in these places where such influential things and influential people have stood in history. And just experience it. It's 314 years later, but I'm stood exactly where the Industrial Revolution started, where our modern world was founded, right here. That's why I think this is the most important town in the world. So that is why I believe Dartmouth is the most influential town in the world, and maybe the most interesting town in the world, but definitely the most influential. And whether you agree with me or not, hopefully you will agree it is incredibly beautiful and incredibly interesting, and I hope you enjoyed the video. That last clip ended quite quickly because there was a lady about to walk on the path in front of me. I'm just here to say I hope you enjoyed the video, because there will be more videos like this coming soon. I really enjoyed making it. I'm quite happy with how it turned out. I wasn't particularly confident when I was filming it, but I'm happy with the end product. I enjoy this, and I want to make more videos about history. So hopefully you enjoyed it. If there's any other towns in Devon that you'd like to see a similar video for, please comment them in the comment section below. And I hope you have a really good rest of your day.